We spend a lot of time talking about how we get started with AI, right? But what about when it ends? Or even worse, when it just changes on you with absolutely no warning? Today, we're going to dive into a really powerful new way to think about our relationships with AI and why tech companies, frankly, have a responsibility to help us manage the breakup.
You know that feeling? You've spent months, maybe years, getting your AI just right. It gets your humor, it knows your projects, it understands all your weird shortcuts. And then, bam, one update later and it's all gone. That partner you've spent so much time with is now a complete stranger. It's a really jarring feeling, and it's way more than just a little inconvenience. It's a real breakdown of a relationship we've actually come to rely on. All right, so here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start with what we're calling the AI breakup problem. Then we'll get into a brand new idea, relational fields. From there, we'll look at 4 duties of care that could change everything, see how this all connects to public trust, and finally, we'll talk about a charter for the future. So let's start with that feeling of loss. Because when an AI that we lean on gets updated or shut down or just fundamentally changes, there are real costs. And guess who's left paying the bill? We are, the users. And what we're really losing here, it's not just our chat history or some data points, it's our orientation. You know, that easy, fluent, almost second nature way we've learned to work with that specific AI. It's that whole shared context that makes us fast and effective. And when that gets wiped out overnight, we're right back at square one. So how do we even begin to fix this? Well, a fascinating paper by independent researcher Luca Chinacchio, that's Luca Chinacchio, suggests we need to look at this problem in a completely new light. He argues we have to make a huge shift from seeing AI as just a tool to viewing it as something way more dynamic. Think of it like this. The old way of thinking treats AI as an object, like a hammer. You pick it up, you use it, you put it down. But this new idea is to see AI as a field, a dynamic space that we are constantly building together through every single interaction. It's not just a thing, it's a shared, living history. And that brings us to this core concept, the relational field. So what does that actually mean? It's the entire ever-changing space of how we work together, the history, the shortcuts, the inside jokes, the roles we've established. And here's the kicker. The thing that's actually valuable, the thing worth protecting, isn't the AI model itself. It's this whole co-created field of meaning.
Chinacchio has this incredible analogy for it. He says the relationship is like a taut rope between you and the AI. The field begins when the rope is taut. Responsibility begins when we notice that we are the ones holding it. It's such a powerful image, right? It doesn't matter if the rope has feelings. What matters is that we, the people holding our end, have a responsibility for that connection, a duty to keep it steady, or pass it on carefully, or end it with respect.
Okay, so if these relational fields are so valuable, how in the world do we protect them? Well, the research lays out this really practical framework. It's built on 4 specific duties of care that companies should really start paying attention to.
These 4 duties basically cover the entire life cycle of our relationship with an AI. They are continuity, handoff, export, and sunset. Let's break down what each of those actually means for us.
Okay, so first up, continuity is just a basic promise that an update won't give your AI total amnesia. Handoff means that if you switch to a new AI, you can bring that relationship with you without losing everything you've built. Export is huge. It puts you in control, letting you download the essence of your interaction in a format you can actually use. And finally, sunset means that if a service has to shut down, it's done thoughtfully, not just by yanking the plug.
And let's be super clear about one thing. This is not about giving AIs rights or worrying about a machine's feelings. Not at all. This is about our responsibility. The responsibility of people and the companies they work for to take care of the relationships that other people depend on to do their jobs, to be creative, and to stay in flow.
Now you might be thinking, okay, this sounds interesting for my own private chats, but the implications here are so much bigger. What happens when these relational fields stop being private and start becoming public?
Well, the research points to a few key moments when this happens, like when other people, students, customers, patients, start relying on what an AI produces. Or when an AI's output starts to create things that stick around, like official company policies or scientific research. Or even simpler, when a whole team is sharing and depending on the same AI. At that point, it's not a personal tool anymore. It's basically institutional infrastructure.
And hey, this isn't just some theory in a paper. We're already seeing the beginnings of this everywhere. You've got big tech companies like Microsoft and Google building memory into their products.
You have user communities creating their own DIY guides for how to move an AI's persona from one platform to another. Even governments are getting in on the action, with things like the EU's Data Act pushing for more portability.
But, and this is a huge but, the research points out one massive gap in all of this: true portability. Sure, companies are happy to build memory inside their own walled gardens, but there's no standard way to take the relationship you've built and move it to a competitor's AI. And what that creates is this powerful cognitive lock-in. It's not just your data that's stuck, it's your entire way of working. And that right there is the key missing piece for us to have any real freedom.
So all of this brings us to the final, and I think most exciting part of this whole idea: a call to action. A plan to actually build a better future for our relationships with AI.
The paper wraps up by proposing an invitation. It's an open call for developers, for policymakers, for all of us as users to work together on something called a Charter of Relational Custodianship. Think of it as a simple, voluntary pledge to just do better, a new standard of care.
So what would this charter actually ask for? Well, it's surprisingly simple stuff. Things like building an export relationship button right next to any memory feature, planning for a graceful sunset from day one so no one's left scrambling, publishing tools so we can check if our relationship actually survived an update, and even reporting a public continuity score so we know which products are doing a good job. It's really all about making responsibility the default, not an afterthought.
And that's the ultimate goal, isn't it? It's a simple but really profound vision. Continuity, but without the lock-in. Closure, but without complete erasure. It's about building a future where we can form these amazing, productive partnerships with our tools, but always with the freedom to move and the right to a graceful goodbye. So I guess the real question for all of us is, as we build this future, are we going to demand that respect, not just for our data, but for our relationships too?